Hello everybody, Marietta here with Little Dreamers, ready to do your Q&A, answer your questions, and get you guys sleeping some more. Just wanted to give you some updates about what's going on over here on my end of things. So last week I was on the place and we talked a little bit about why your baby may be waking up at night. So if you didn't get a chance to see that, go check out my blogs and you can watch the video. I think there's a link to it. And then I also wrote a blog to kind of explain it in more detail because you only have so much time during those segments to give all of the information. So go check that out. Tonight I'm going to be talking a little bit about the sleep training methods that I love and when I love to use them. And then I'll be publishing a blog post about those tomorrow. So if you're going to be sleep training soon and you want to learn a little bit more about sleep training methods, then this is for you. So, oh yeah, and then before I jump back into that, I also wanted to let you know that I am working on a time change survival guide for this spring forward. So I did one for the fall. Many of you have that. We're able to adjust your kids easier. So I'm working on one for spring. Hopefully that will be ready at the beginning of March, the latest, and we can get that out to everybody because you do handle the spring forward change different than you handle the fall back change. So that way you can all be sleeping better and hopefully prevent your child from, is that a spring forward when they wake up early? Okay, I can't do it in my head, the math and numbers, I'm not good at it. Anyways, okay, so jumping back to the sleep training methods really quick. I thought for those of you who are new or haven't heard me talk a lot, when I do my Q&As, I refer a lot to Cry It Out because it's the easiest method. It's very straightforward and it's the easiest method to explain in a short amount of time. But that's not the only sleep training method I do when I work one-on-one with my clients. So I'm going to talk about my favorite ones, but before I do, I just want to give you a little background picture of me, why I do this, and kind of my philosophy. So I have a 4-year-old and I have 2.5-year-old twins, and my 4-year-old is a great sleeper. I thought I had done everything right, but really I'd broken so many rules and I had no idea what I was doing. So when my twins came along, they were awful sleepers because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was really frustrated with the lack of clear, direct information out there. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and so at this point I was like, this is ridiculous. Sleep is not only vital to my physical health, but to my mental and emotional health, and it's got to be vital for their health too. And it's not right that there's not clear information out there. With what we know today, we should have clear information. And so I set off on a mission that I was going to figure out baby sleep. And as I dug in and understood it better, and this is, I had already read books for my first child. Sleep was always very important to me, and so I had read books, but I really dove in and understood it more. But at this point, I was completely sleep deprived. I had been sleeping on 4 hours of staggered sleep for about 2 months when I finally implemented my sleep strategy and got my twins sleeping through the night. And that was life-changing for me. First of all, to actually be sleeping is huge, right? I'm sure you guys can remember the first time, if you have other children, the first time they slept through the night. It is amazing. And that was really when my love for helping other moms in similar situations just grew. And so that's who I love to help. That's who I love to work with, is those moms who are exhausted and sleep deprived and just don't know what to do. Now, I'll help any mom who wants help sleep training, but that's really where my passion is because I was there and I know how desperate you feel and how alone you feel and how broken you feel. I get it. And so that's really where I'm geared towards. And because I'm helping moms with, in this kind of state of desperation, my favorite sleep training methods are the ones that are quicker, that are going to provide results quicker. So in my sleep training plans, there is crying, there is struggle for the child as they learn new skills, just like when they learn any new skill, they're going to struggle. And for me, that works because I know that the more that we struggle, the sooner that we're going to get to the top of the hill. And so all of my sleep training methods do require struggle. And if If you're not okay with that, then I'm not a good fit for you. But if you're okay with some struggle, at least some, then this is where you can find quick help for sleep for both you and your baby. So having said that, let me go over some of the sleep training methods. So the most gentle form of sleep training that I do follows the what we call the chair method. And what this means is that the parent stays in the room with the child while they're falling asleep. So it's very parent involved. A lot of people describe this method as like a no-cry sleep solution, and I don't think they're being honest, because there will still be struggle and still be crying because you're still changing things and providing new boundaries and limits for your child. But the parent's there and involved in it all. So that helps the parent's anxiety oftentimes. So what ends up happening is the child is in, or the mom is in the child's room, and then the mom gradually is weaning herself, or dad or whoever it is gradually weaning themselves away from the child so that they can fall asleep on their own. I find that this approach works really well for older children who are not sleeping, say, in their own room, or perhaps transitioning from co-sleeping to their own bed, right? It's pretty slow, it's pretty gradual, but it does require some pretty consistent boundaries and is supportive of the child. This method can take upwards of 2 weeks and even longer to see that nighttime sleep really come together, because the parent is there the whole time, and sometimes the child can feed off of just the parent being there, and it can push those sleep results back a little bit. So that's the first one. I don't really recommend it for super young kids, because they really need some space to be able to figure it out. But like I said, I really like that one for older kids when they've been pretty dependent on sleeping with mom or touching mom to fall asleep for a long time. My next sleep training method that I generally use, and when I'm working with a client, we'll kind of combine parts from each of these to create kind of a unique sleep training method for you and your situation, but these are kind of the 4 that I use pretty regularly. The next one is a pick up, put down method, where you're doing your routine, you're putting your child to bed, and then you're leaving the room. And when you conduct a check, you can actually pick up your child. You can soothe your child, you can rock your child, and then you can lay your child back down and leave the room again and give them the space to fall asleep. Again, there is crying in this, but you get to decide how much crying you're comfortable with, and also the intensity that you're comfortable with. This is a great method for a really young baby, 4-month-old, 5-month-old. If you get too much older than that, these pick up, put down tend to result in too much stimulation for the child, and then they can put sleep off, because they're kind of pulling for energy from the parent and thriving on that instead of falling asleep and doing that. But this is great for really young babies, because they're getting that soothing from the parent's still involved, but they are able to fall asleep on their own. The next method is a check and console method, where you're still doing checks, but instead of picking the baby up, you're talking to the baby, you're patting the baby, you're short checks to make sure they're safe and okay, but then still leaving. This is great for older babies where it's hard for parents to handle the anxiety of hearing their baby struggle for X amount of time, right? So this allows the parent to go in and do, a physical check on the baby, make sure they're okay, calm their anxiety, and then leave the room. This can often be pretty upsetting for babies if you think about it. Their parents coming in and checking on them, but they're not giving them what they need, and so it's a little bit confusing for a baby. So this isn't my favorite one. There are times when I still do it. Absolutely, it can fit for your family. It works well when the parent's anxiety is really high with crying, but it doesn't do a lot for the baby, right? Because the baby's just confused. Why aren't you coming? Why aren't you helping me? Why aren't you picking me up? And then you're leaving, and they're getting more upset that you're leaving and not giving them what they need. Sometimes one check can be helpful, and then to switch over to extinction, just to really send the message that, hey, I'm here, but I'm not gonna help you, and that can often allow the child to accept the change that's coming. So this method works great, again, for a little bit older babies, anywhere from 6 months on. It can be helpful. And then the final one, and I didn't tell you how long it usually takes to see results, so I'll go over that at the end. So then the final one that I use is true cried out or extinction, where the child is put down to bed and the parent leaves and doesn't return until the child has at least fallen asleep at some point. We're always working to make sure our child is safe. So yes, there's always an exception where you can go in and help your child. But generally you're not going back in, right? This method often gets a bad rap because we're leaving our children, we're letting them cry, we're abandoning them. And I disagree with that approach. As a marriage and family therapist, attachment's really important to me. And I know that part of attachment is healthy boundaries and limits, as well as growth and repairing. So I have a whole blog about that, so I won't go into too much details on that. But what I do love about the cried out method is that it's super direct and consistent for the child. It's very easy for them to understand what the new expectation is. And I believe that's why it's the fastest approach, is because the baby can quickly see, oh, this is how it's going to be. Okay, well, let me adjust and conform to this, because that's what babies do in all of the ways that they change throughout that first year of life. That's what they're doing. So when you're doing the cried out method, what a lot of people don't realize is that you actually have the least amount of crying in cried out. It's just kind of all jam-packed into the first 1 to 3 days. Crazy, right? So that's important to know, because if you're doing a slower method, and I'll talk about times in just a second with those, you're often getting a lot more crying from those because of the checks and how that prolongs sleep. So cry it out. Generally, we see nighttime sleep. I'll just talk about nighttime sleep because naps always take a little bit longer. But with cry it out, nighttime sleep improves within 1 to 3 days. I've had babies that have cried for 30 minutes, fallen asleep, and slept through the night the first night. Crazy, right? Can you believe that 30 minutes could be standing in the way from you and your baby getting a full night's sleep? Crazy. Now, when I talk to my parents about cry it out, I don't ever tell them to expect that. And we always prepare for the absolute worst, right? We want to prepare for the absolute worst in whatever training method we choose, so that we know we can handle it and we know we can be consistent. So if we were talking about the check and console, which is, again, when you don't pick them up, but you just walk in, talk to them, pat them, and then leave, that method takes anywhere from 4 to 7 days for nighttime sleep to come together. If we jump up to the pick up, put down, that takes anywhere from about 7 to 10 days. And the chair method, where you're sitting in the room with a child, can take 14 or longer days to kind of get that nighttime sleep together, and for them to be completely sleep trained and independent from the mom. That one kind of depends on how fast you wean yourself away, so it definitely depends. Okay, so those are my favorite ones, and like I said, when I work with families, we kind of talk about and find like the perfect match for their family, and I come up with a customized check schedule for them, depending on how old their baby is, how comfortable they are hearing their child cry, what do their checks look like. So we kind of go through all of that to find the perfect method for you. So but again, I'll be posting a blog tomorrow with a lot of this information and kind of walking you through the pros and cons of all of them, and when I like to use each one. So a lot of fun. Okay, let's jump into our questions. If you're here, give me a shout out in the comments. For some reason, my video thing, I don't know if it's working, and I don't know if I can see comments here. And that makes me so sad. I deleted it accidentally last time. So let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, and Jennifer's saying, is there any way I can watch this later tonight? So I will comment on hers. You can watch this later if you're tuning in, but for some reason, I have like a different, Cabry's here. Okay, great. And Jamie's here. Okay, great. I am seeing comments. I have this like different app that I use to record it, and usually it shows my comments coming in, but it's not, so I have to try to fix this. I'm not a technology person, you guys know this. Okay, so great. So let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, if you're here, wonderful. I'm going to answer your questions. Michaela's saying hi, and Lindsay's saying hi, and I recognize your names. I have questions from you guys. So let's go ahead and start at the top. Cabry, you're our second question. Lindsay, you're our third. So I'm glad you guys are here. Okay, so let's get started. Our first one is actually coming from Carissa Olson. And and I need to, just a sec, because I need to note the time, because I like to. It looks like Jamie is saying, hey, Cassie. Oh, that's funny. So you see someone that's here too. That's fun. Oh, that's so fun. I love this. Connections. Okay, connections are the best. Okay, so at 14:40, we're going to talk about Carissa Olson. Carissa says, my one-year-old is a terrible nap taker. She will only sleep for about 15 to 20 minutes and then wakes up and needs to be soothed back to sleep. I'm also struggling with whether she still needs 2 naps or just 1. She still needs 2. At 1 year old, she still needs 2. Okay, she usually wakes up around 7 and is then usually ready for a nap late morning between 10 and 11. Okay. I actually want her to take a nap. I want her to be asleep at like 10. So wake up at 7 and then take a nap at 10. She doesn't sleep well through this nap and gets interrupted at noon when I have to pick up my preschooler. Okay, so I would actually wake her up at 11. So I'd have her sleep 10 to 11 and then I'd wake her up. Then the reason we're waking her, Carissa, is to preserve our second nap. Okay? And sometimes she wants to nap again, but not until late afternoon, like 4 or 5. And part of the reason she wants to nap so late is because it's 2 hours long. So you want to cut that off an hour, so she's getting a 1-hour nap in the morning, and then you want her to go to sleep at about 2:30 and sleep for about 1 hour again. So she's waking up at about 3:30. And then you try to put her to bed between 7:30 and 8. Perfect. So I'd keep bedtime at 7:30, but I would just move all of those naps up. Secondly, part of the reason she might not be a great nap taker is because you're soothing her to sleep. I'm assuming you're doing that at the beginning of the nap too. I'm not sure. I don't have enough information. But, Carissa, you might want to check out some of my sleep training information on my blog because if a child wants to sleep the duration of their nap however they fell asleep at the beginning of their nap. So, for example, if you're rocking her to sleep and then laying her in her bed and she's waking up 20 minutes later and you have to soothe her back to sleep by rocking her, that's because she's saying, hey, I fell asleep this way and I want to have it this way my whole nap. So what we want to do is teach her how to fall asleep without needing you so that she can sleep well for her whole nap. Okay, so let's go to Cabri. Cabri, I saw that you were here, I believe, so I think you did. Okay, Cabri's at 16:50. Sorry, guys, I have to know the time so I can do an outline so that people that are tuning in later don't have to watch forever. Okay, so Cabri says co-sleeping. When do you switch them to their own room when they are nursing? Baby is 2 months. Okay, so Cabri, just make sure that you're doing safe co-sleeping. There's a couple different places that you can find guidelines for that, and I keep telling myself that I'm going to write a co-sleeping blog post, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. There's so many blog ideas that I have, but only one person to write them. So just make sure you're practicing safe co-sleeping. The AAP, I believe, did send out safe co-sleeping guidelines, even though they say not to do it. And I think the reasoning was, even though we're saying it's not safe, so many moms are doing it that we want to show them the safest way to do it. But like other places have safe guidelines too. Kelly Mom is a great resource. I know that she has safe co-sleeping, so just make sure you're doing that. The AAP also recommends that babies stay in the parent's room for at least 6 months and up to a year. So that's something to consider. I personally, as a mom, have a hard time sleeping with my babies in my room. And I think I kept my twins in my room till they were like 5 or 6 weeks because my mother-in-law stayed with me till then. And when she left, then I put them in her room. My first did not make it a week in my room. That's just me. You don't have to follow my example. So my point being, it's your choice. You're the parent. You get to decide. I'm telling you what AAP guidelines are and what, what I do. So probably somewhere in the middle is best for you. But I recommend moving the baby out of the room sometime, at least by the time that you want to sleep train. And I recommend sleep training at 16 weeks or later. So I do like babies to be in their own room when they sleep train, and I do ask them to just get a quick pediatrician approval that moving them out is safe for the baby at that point. Okay, and I think Cabri's saying me too, like maybe, because I have having a hard time seeing my comments, and I don't know what to do about it. I can only see them like right when they come in. And he's our time going in the bassinet, but it's doing better. Okay. And he's at 2 months. So, Cabri, if you don't have my newborn survival sleep guide, go get it. It's on a pin post on my Facebook page, and you can just right there click on it. It'll take you right to Facebook Messenger, and you can download it. And that'll give you some tips for 2 months to 4 months. And then at 4 months, you can start sleep training, and so it's a whole nother ballgame after that. But he's doing good. Okay, so let's go to Lindsay Williams. And Lindsay, I believe that you are here. Oh, and Kristen, you have a question. Okay, so if you have a question, you are welcome to post it. And if I have time at the end, I will read any questions that are posted at the end. But I want to make sure I get to my questions that were already submitted. Okay, so Lindsay has an 8-month-old. and goes to bed at 7 p.m. daily. We put him down sleepy but awake. Lately, he has started waking up between 8 and 9, super upset, screaming, and won't go back to sleep until I hold him. Once I hold him, he goes right back to sleep. No feeding and very little rocking, but will scream again if I put him back in his bed too quick. He's okay if I hold him for 15 minutes or so. Okay, so Lindsay, I'm not exactly sure what the rest of the day looks like, but my first guess is that he probably needs to go to bed earlier. Maybe he's getting less sleep during the day, maybe he's going through a growth spurt, but usually that waking up and screaming means that they need to go to bed a little bit earlier. The second thing that I would recommend doing is to put him down in his bed completely awake and alert, so that he's not sleepy anymore. He's completely awake and alert, and he's falling asleep on his own. My bet is he won't resist that too much because he already falls asleep on his own. He's just sleepy. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Again, I don't know when he's waking up. I don't know what naps look like, so it's hard for me to say, but that would be my first guess for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and go down to Spencer Christy Burnside. I'm assuming that this is like a joint account. So she says, as a professional, do you recommend sleep training for every baby? I guess I have to say no, because there are times when I don't. Specifically, I have a blog post up that my friend wrote about her oldest that she couldn't sleep train until much later than she would have liked, and that was for a medical condition. He needed open heart surgery, and so she really couldn't do any type of crying, and it really wasn't okay to sleep train him. And so in that, I always have my clients get pediatrician approval just to make sure your baby's healthy and that crying is okay. Again, just that struggle, not that we're going to leave them for hours and hours and hours to cry all night, no, but just to know that it is safe for them to struggle, and for that crying to take place, and anything else, that's your pediatrician's kind of realm, is to make sure it's safe. So yeah, that's one example. So that's my no, it's not good for everybody. My yes is that at some point, every single child is sleep training, whether it happens at 4 months or 18 years. You as a parent aren't going to be helping your child fall asleep anymore, right? They'll move out of your house and they'll figure out their own way. I don't know anyone that's waited till they're 18. Usually it happens, 3, 5, 7 maybe, but at some point every child learns how to fall asleep on their own. And so yes, every child does sleep train. Okay, Jennifer Harker has an 8.5-month-old. And she says he goes to bed at 7 and a handful of times in the last month has slept without waking till 6. We'll go back down till 7:30. His first nap is between 9:30 and 10:15. Okay, so he's waking up at 7:30 and his first nap is at 9:30. Is between 9:30 and 10:15 for an hour. Oh, like it starts somewhere, you're saying, between 9:30 and 10:15 for an hour. Okay. And then another hour nap at 2. Sometimes he seems pretty tired by 5 and after cranky by the end of the day. Yeah. So he's waking up at 3. Yeah, I would want his bedtime a little bit earlier. Two 2-hour naps at 8.5 months is pretty low. Usually I see closer to 3 hours of sleep. And so at that age, I would say a bedtime of 6 would be more appropriate for him. Sometimes he seems pretty tired by 5 and often cranky by the end of the day. Okay, if you could give me advice on optimal nap and sleep schedules, I'd appreciate that. So I think your nap times look good. Let's see. If you put him down at 9:30, the only thing that I would suggest doing is maybe moving it up. If he sleeps from like 9:30 to 10:30, then you have 11:30, 12:30. I'd probably try putting him to sleep at like 1:30. So I'd just be more consistent about when you're putting him to bed. Wake up time at 7:30, first nap at 9:30, second nap at 1:30, bedtime at 6. If his naps start to lengthen out, then you can kind of push those back a little bit and have a later bedtime. Another question. We just went out of town last weekend and he slept in a pack and played pretty well, but now that we are home, he is sleeping horrible. Do I have to re-sleep train him anytime I change his sleep location? Not necessarily, but sometimes kids just regress after being out and about. Sometimes they sleep better if it's been like a vacation and they need extra sleep, but sometimes they don't sleep as well just because they're coming back home. Maybe they have had some leniencies in the routine or anything like that. Who knows what it is, but that's pretty normal. It's not so much about re-sleep training them. It's just about being more consistent in our routine so that they can get back into the habits that they were having before. When I say sleep train, I do a gentle cry. I do not even let him cry for more than 15 minutes, which is fine. You don't have to let your child cry for more than 15 minutes. 15 minutes is what I recommend for a baby to be able to resettle. A lot of babies will resettle at like 14 and a half minutes, right? So 15 minutes is kind of my rule as well. So that's fine. You can do it. But as he gets older, you might notice that as you're doing checks at 15 minutes, that it's more stimulating than it is helping him fall asleep. So just watch for that in him. Okay, Jamie Crowther. And you guys probably know when I struggle to say names because I say it's slow and awkward and funny, but I wish you were here and you could just correct me because then I would know how to say it next time. Okay, anyways. Jamie says, I have a 5-month-old daughter wondering how long awake time should be. Right now she's waking at 7:30 to 8:30, goes down around 9:30 to 10, sleeps around 45 minutes to an hour. Okay. So I'd really try, Jamie, to get her on a consistent wake-up time. So if she's waking up like 7:30, 8:30, I'd maybe shoot for like an 8 a.m. wake-up and see if she can do it. That's actually pretty late for a morning wake-up. So there's a whole other part of me that's like, just do 7:30. But I realize that you may not want to. And then waking up at 8 and going down around 9:30 is pretty appropriate. Sleeps around 45 minutes to an hour. That's fine. Then goes back to sleep at 1. So she's looking at going on at 9:30, sleep until 10:30. Okay, so that's a little long. I would, right around 5 months, we want to keep wake times to about 2 hours. Give or take like 15 minutes in either direction, depending on your baby. So I would move that second nap up to like 12 for a long 3-hour nap. And that's a long nap. I don't like naps to be longer than 2 hours at this stage. So if I were you, I'd let her sleep from 12 to 2 and then I'd wake her up. I put her to sleep for the night at 7:30, trying to figure out if I should keep that third nap around 5:30, 4:30, or 45 minutes. Yeah. So I'd wake her up at 2, and then I'd put her down at 4, actually, for a third nap, and that nap should end by 5, but I'm hoping that she's waking up at like 4:45 at the latest, really. And then bedtime at 6:45. That's what I would do for a 5-month-old. Give or take 15 minutes here and there. But I would still keep that third nap because... So it is a myth to never wake a sleeping baby. It is a myth to never wake a sleeping baby. The times that it's okay to wake a sleeping baby are when we're preserving the next nap or bedtime. So I'm waking my baby up in the morning to preserve her morning nap. Now there are times when you don't, like if she's been sick or she went to sleep late, or there's all sorts of scenarios when you want it. But if you want to get her on a good schedule, then wake her in the morning and then wake her up from that second nap to get her into kind of a better schedule. It'll probably help lengthen out her morning nap as well, and then make sure she keeps that third nap for at least another month. Babies, I think you asked me this question. I feel like she only gets a good 2 hours in between naps and want to know if that's long enough awake time. Yes. At what age should we drop the last nap of the day? So the last nap can be dropped around 6 months, but anywhere from 6 months up to 9 months at the latest. So it totally depends on the baby and all sorts of things. But for now, I would keep the 3 naps. Okay, Megan Taylor. Let me write down the time really quick. Thanks, guys, for being patient. Okay, Megan says, my twins are 4 months old. We wake up at about 7 a.m., eat, then play about an hour. Then they take a nap around 10 a.m. Okay, that's really long for a 4-month-old, Megan. I like my 4-month-old to be... Okay, well, I'll finish reading your question and then I'll give you my advice. After this, they have a hard time taking any naps longer than 20 minutes. Okay, and part of the reason is because they're probably overtired at that point, so that's what we're going to talk about. I try to put them down for a nap about every 2 hours or sooner if they seem tired. How can I get them to take longer naps and more on a schedule? Okay, so I love that they're waking up at 4 months. What should be consistent by the clock is waking up every day at 7. They should be pretty good about waking up every day at 7. And then I would actually start their first nap at 8:30. About an hour and a half. At 4 months, I don't typically have a 4-month-old that's awake for a full 2 hours. So it's usually about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, depending on the baby. So that's what I would do is I'd put them to bed at 8:30, and then it gets pretty unpredictable from there. That first nap might be an hour, it might be 2 hours. It kind of varies from day to day. And then when they wake up, they have that awake period again, about an hour and 45 minutes, and then we're putting them back down to bed. and who knows how long that nap will be, right? It might be 30 minutes, it might be an hour. And as they get closer to 5 months, their days will kind of get more consistent. Their naps should lengthen out, and they'll drop that 4th nap of the day. But she should be on about a 4-nap schedule with about an hour and 45 minutes between each nap. Hopefully that will help you, Megan. Okay, Chanel Dawson. She says her daughter is 2 and is waking too early in the morning. She wakes up screaming. I think mostly to get my attention because she's still tired. She goes to bed around 7 p.m. and wakes between 5 and 5:30 a.m. Okay, that is so early, Chanel. Ugh. She takes a nap at 12 and sleeps for about an hour. When she wakes, I pick her up and let her nap on me in her chair. Okay. I wonder how long she's actually napping for. Are you here, Chanel? Is she lapping? Is she napping for 1 hour on you and then or 1 hour in her bed and then waking up, and then how long is she napping? I pick her up and let her nap in the chair. She goes down really easily but wakes too early from nap time and nighttime sleep. Okay, Chanel, so I'm wondering how your little girl's falling asleep. Is she falling asleep completely independent, or are you helping her fall asleep? Because that may be part of the reason that she's waking up after an hour. Another reason may be that she's not quite getting enough sleep. So if she's so tired, right? We want to get her on a better schedule, and the way we're going to do that is by putting her to bed probably earlier and maybe even an earlier nap. If she's waking up at 5, which I don't want her to be, I want her to be waking up at 7, but even if she's waking up at 7, she can take a good 2-hour nap from 1 to 3 and then go to bed at 7. So if she's taking a nap at 12 to 2 and waking up at 6 or 5 or something, I really want her to go to bed earlier, like 6 o'clock, and see if that can't help her sleep longer in the morning and then be well rested enough to take a really good nap. Okay, and then let's jump down to Lisa Hall. And Lisa says, my son is 5 months and we started sleep training this week. Woohoo! She says, this is the first day and he did pretty good with his first 3 naps of the day and didn't cry much at all. That's awesome. His naps have been around 30 minutes, but as the day has gone on, he has had a harder time. We are laying him down awake, no swaddle, etc. His first wake period is about an hour and the rest are about an hour and a half. We are laying him down about 10 minutes before I expect him to be tired. He usually is fine for a few minutes and starts fussing after that, and we go in at intervals to try to soothe him. Okay, are you here, Lisa? How long is it taking him to fall asleep? I know you're going in for intervals, but like if you put him down, is it taking him like 30 minutes to actually fall asleep, or how long? If you're here, go ahead and answer that for me. Earlier in the day it was working, but at the last nap of the day I feel like he is too overtired and nothing is going to work short of picking him up. Should we just focus on nighttime sleep first and still rock him sleep for naps, or should we do it all at once? How soon before he should be asleep should we be laying him down? Okay, so a couple things. I like to start at nighttime because the need to sleep is greater, so they have a lot of practice throughout the night. And then I like to follow up the naps the next day. It makes sense that after a good night's sleep that it's easier for him to go to sleep for his first nap. So here's a couple things, and I don't know what is going on exactly or what will be helpful. He's taking about 10 minutes to fall asleep. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. Because at 5 months, his wake periods seem a little short to me. And so part of me wonders if I don't mind having an hour wake period in the morning, but an hour and a half seems pretty short for 5 months. So part of me wants you to stretch that out a little bit and do closer to an hour and a half in the morning. Isn't this so funny when I answer questions? I like take notes, guys, on your questions, like as if, I don't know why I do that, but I'm like writing down notes on your questions. So if you ever have another question, let me know because I've taken notes. Okay, anyway, so I do that first wake period closer to like an hour and a half. And then as you get further down throughout the day, I would say 2 hours is more appropriate. At 5 months, he can be on a 3-nap schedule. And so if he's getting overtired, it may just be because he's ready. Well, if his naps are only 30 minutes, he might not be ready to go down to 3 naps. But it might be an overtired thing, or it might be he's not having enough wake time. And so he's having a hard time falling asleep. You say day 2 has been a little rough. We are doing True cried out because doing checks made it worse. See, guys, sometimes doing checks makes it worse. Yes, doing checks can make it worse. So, Lisa, I'd suggest doing, if you're interested, just doing like a consultation to go over his schedule so we can kind of talk about it. If you're doing if you're keeping track of his sleep, and you can schedule a consultation and then send me your sleep tracker, and I can help you know when to put him down throughout the day. Consultations are relatively inexpensive compared to some of my full sleep training packages. So I charge $2 a minute, and we schedule them at 15-minute intervals. So you could have a 15-minute consultation, a 30-minute consultation, whatever you feel like you need. He's been very overtired today. Naps have been horrible. Yeah, and that's what's really hard, is that naps might be horrible with the overtired, tired thing. So it's hard for me to say because I can't see the whole picture. Getting him to sleep and being consistent. So practice at night, because that's when the need to sleep is greater, and then you follow through with the next day and getting him down after a good night's sleep, getting him down at the right times throughout the day so that he is able to fall asleep. I also do 1 hour of nap time for them to soothe, and if they don't soothe, you can go in and get them and then put him down 30 minutes later. He will learn, he will figure out this new normal of how to sleep. Sleep is not an option, it is a requirement, and he will figure out, his body will figure out how to do it too. But again, like I said, what I would do is lengthen out those wake times just a little bit for him. Because my bet is that may be why he's not taking longer naps, because he's falling asleep too soon and then just waking up. Again, I can't see everything, so I'm not sure. Okay, so let's go to, thanks, Nancy, I like that. Kids and sleeping, good to know we are all in this together, right? Yes. Okay, so Julian JC Emperon, I don't know how to say your last name, but let's talk about your question. She says, I'm a mother of twins, and they're pretty much on the same schedule, but have a hard time sleeping in their crib. They will sleep just fine when they are with me and my husband, but as soon as I lay them down in the crib, they wake up screaming. I have white noise going, humidifier in there, they are swaddled, and I use a rice pack to trick them to thinking that someone is there, but it still doesn't work, and they wake up around 8 a.m. Okay, I don't know how old your baby is, Julian. Usually fall back asleep. So you're saying they wake up at 8 a.m. for the day, and they usually fall back asleep till about 10 or 11 in the morning? And it's a fight from there to get them back to sleep for a nap. I just need help getting them to sleep in their crib, because it is so quiet and dark in there, and my room is not, but somehow they still seem to sleep better in there. They do share a room, they both eat at the same time, but I can never get them to sleep at the same time. Okay, I have a lot of questions, Julian, so it's going to be hard for me to answer. I don't know how old they are, so that's important. It sounds like they're falling asleep on you, and then you're putting them into bed. So if they are less than 4 months old, then, and you're saying they are swaddled, so part of me thinks that maybe they're less than 4 months old, and it might just be hard for them to sleep on a flat surface in the crib. If you don't have my newborn survival sleep guide, go grab it. It's on my Facebook page in my pin post, and that might be helpful if that's the age that they're at. If they're over 4 months old, then I would say you probably need to sleep train them, which means getting rid of the swaddle and allowing them to fall asleep in their crib so that they can be comfortable sleeping there all night. It's kind of like if you fell asleep in your bed and then woke up in the bathtub. I don't think you'd be very happy about that. And you would be like, I want to sleep in my bed. And so you would get up and go to your bed. And luckily you can do that on your own. But if you couldn't, you'd start screaming and you want someone to come help you. So that's what's happening for them. They're falling asleep outside of their bed. And when they wake up in their bed, they're saying, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I want to be back where I was when I fell asleep. And so teaching them to fall asleep in their bed so that when they wake up, they know exactly what to expect. And I have a bunch of, there's a couple of ways you do, but I'll highlight 2 of the most popular ways in my sleep training packages. I have a silver sleep training package, which is kind of like a do-it-yourself with some help from me. You get a generalized plan, but then you get phone calls with me. So if you have questions or concerns, I can walk through and help answer those. That's $189. And then I also have a gold package where it's really hands-on for me, where we're doing a full hour consultation to help you choose your sleep training method, identify any obstacles, talk about the perfect schedule for you. And then when you get your sleep plan, it's, handwritten for you with all of the information that you and your child specifically need to help you sleep train. And then you get 2 weeks of support. So while you're sleep training, you get unlimited email, unlimited text, unlimited phone calls to not only help you as the parent, but to make sure we're doing the right thing for the child so that they are getting any changes that need to be made, right? If we've got them on a schedule and I'm looking at it and thinking, oh, let's do it a little bit differently, and that might be the thing that just clicks and gets them sleeping a lot better. So that plan is awesome. Everyone tells me it's worth every single penny because of the support that they get, and just it takes away the worry from the mom. And that plan is $3.99, and I don't charge any extra for twins. So if you want to do them both at the same time, you would not have to pay $3.99 twice. It would just be once. So that's kind of awesome, right? Okay, so let me run to these questions. I had somebody comment with a question, and I've got some extra time because I talked about my sleep training methods at the beginning. My problem is that my thing, okay, let me see, I don't know how to find my comments because my thing isn't showing them, so be patient with me and let me see if I can pull this up really quick. It's like only showing me live comments, and I need to see when that was posted a minute ago. Ugh. Crap. If you're here and you have a question, type it and comment it right now so that I can answer it, because for some reason it's not showing me the other ones. And that is so frustrating. I don't know how to make it pop up. Let me see. So I'm waiting to see if any comments come in. I want that. So if you have a question and you'd like to get it answered, you're welcome to just put it in the comments. And I can see new incoming comments come through. I'm just having a hard time seeing. I found it. Guys, I found it. This is good. Okay, so let me go up. Okay, I knew there's a way to get this. Okay, Kristen. Kristen says, I'm just going to make sure. Okay, yes. So Kristen had the first one. Okay, thanks. Sorry, guys. Okay, so Kristen says, my little one is 6 months old, and we've been trying the cry it out method for 6 nights now. Okay, something isn't right, Kirsten. Sorry, Kirsten. I read your name wrong. Cry it out should work in 1 to 3 nights, so something isn't right. I already know that. She goes to bed on her own really well. That's good, but she wakes up every 1 to 2 hours, and the only way to calm her down is with a bottle. I've tried reducing the amount in the bottle, but the more she drinks, the more she sleeps, which is no longer than 2 hours. I've let her cry it out many times for almost 3 hours, and there's no sign of her stopping. How can I get her to sleep through the night without a bottle? This is a great question, and it sounds like it's going to be tricky. Because my first thought is that maybe her daytime schedule is messed up, and that's causing her to wake more often. I still have questions about exactly how she's falling asleep, because sometimes there can still be an association with sleeping and bottles even when the child is falling asleep on their own. Depends on if they're getting the bottle too close to bedtime, different things like that. And then I wonder about her eating, because my bet is that she's eating every 2 hours at night, and she's eating quite a bit, that she's probably not eating very well during the day. And so shifting that can make a big difference. Like, she might really need those calories because she's getting the majority of her calories at night. We really want to shift that so she's getting the majority of her calories during the day so she doesn't need them at night. That's a long question, Kirsten, and I don't know that I have the time to answer it here in this Q&A, nor enough information to really give you all the information you need. But if you're interested in working together, you'd be a great candidate for any of my sleep training packages so that we can kind of get this ironed out and get you having more success. If you're really doing cry it out, it should work in 1 to 3 nights. And so something is amiss there. And, let's see if we can figure that out. Figure out what mistakes we're making or why she's being so stubborn so that we can iron them out and get everybody sleeping better. Make sure there's any other questions. And I think that's it. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. Please give me a like or a love or a comment if you appreciated this Q&A. I love doing these, and I love talking to you guys about sleep, and I hope that I can continue to help lots of moms get the sleep and help that they need. So feel free to share this video or any of my post-gathering questions on Facebook so that your mom friends can see them and know that there's help out there where they can get free, personalized help for their sleep concerns. Thanks so much, you guys, and hopefully I'll see you guys all here next week. Okay, bye-bye.